Good morning. Welcome to the September offering of Meet Us in the Garden from the Lake County Master Gardeners. This morning, we are going to be hearing about fabulous fall blooming flowers from Sandy McKeah and Mary Salkow.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Meet Us in the Garden for our fabulous fall blooming flowers. We have selected some fall flowers that will bring color and variety to your landscape gardening. There are the fall flowers with soft pastel blue, yellows, and lilac to choose from, or the bold colors of gold and red that will remind us of the autumn leaves. Fall gardening is more than the traditional classic mum that we find at our nurseries and big box stores. Ask yourself, what do you want from your fall garden? When selecting and designing your fall flowers, there are questions you should be asking yourself. Let's explore some options of what flowers we can plant for the fall. There are many late summer blooming flowers we can extend our blooms into the fall by cutting their stems back before they start their first set of blooming flowers. This can be a time to explore and extend our garden by adding a more diverse and vibrant palette of color and texture to your flower beds. Do you like a bright and bountiful garden? By adding more diverse and vibrant palette of color and texture? Do you like to have a more, perhaps a simple and more natural setting? Then there's the unique and unusual plantings giving warmth to the cool fall temperatures. What is your style and how much time do you want to continue in the garden? The first flower I want to show you is the windflowers called fall blooming anemones. And the fall blooming anemones are referred to as the Japanese. The flower received its name from the English version, where the flowers seem to appear blown open by the wind. These flowers are native to China and were cultivated in Japan for hundreds of years. For fall blooming windflowers, check the plant label to make sure that it reads Japanese anemones. I was recently in a local nursery and I did find the windflowers and I looked at the plant label and it read curtain call pink, Japanese anemones. So there are anemones for the fall blooming and there are spring ones. So you may want to consider having both spring and fall. The windflowers are a perennial, hardy to zone 4 to 7. They're best planted in a mass. They are tall and planted together, they do make a statement. And they have this white, pink, and rose blossoms that will illuminate a shade garden. They are tall, between 2 to 4 feet tall and 2 feet wide. They will bloom from September to October, morning sun to partial shade, and deadheading is optional. It's kind of a personal use and how you like your garden to look. There is a way to control some of their height, and that is cutting back to about 12 inches in the late springtime. It prefers a well-rich drained soil. Mulch a plant protects the roots. Fall transplanting is never recommended. You want to wait till the springtime. And it is a great pollinator for your bees and butterflies. A second flower is the aster. Very common, but I think it's a beautiful flower. And it kind of gives a bellwether or a signal that fall is here. And it has a lovely lilac blue colors, baby blues, and pinks with that yellow pop of color in the center. It's a perennial. It's native to Ohio. Hardy to the zones 4 through 8. It needs full sun, average soil, and the colors range from blue, violet, pink, red, and white. Now the asters, they can be short from 10 inches up to 39 inches. So the tall varieties will need staking. And you might want to consider maybe perhaps growing the short asters in front of your tall ones. And that will give your tall plants some support. Or you could plant maybe a hardy astilbes in front of them to give them support. And this will bloom from September till October in your garden. For care and propagation, probably about every 3 years, you'll want to consider dividing these. And then you can remove the faded flowers for a more attractive look. Pollinators, great for the monarch butterfly. The next plant, flower, is the ironweed. And I'd like to make a comment on its name. First, iron. And I believe the iron will refer to its stem. It's strong, it's sturdy. I have that growing in my garden, and it just stands up straight and tall, does not weep over or bend. So I think that's where the iron part comes in. As for the weed, it is not a weed. It is a native wildflower. It's hardy, the zone 3 to 7, has purple blooms July through September. And the flower forms a flat panicle of 10 to 30 little fluffy flowers. It is tall, 4 to 6 feet, so you want to consider putting that along your foundation or in the back of your plantings. And it will grow well and taller, very tall in moist soils, suitable for wetter site, and it does prefer a full sun. And oftentimes you will see this plant growing along the roadside, in meadows, pastures, and it is has a bitter leaf, so deer, rabbits will stay away from it. And I was reading about the ironweed growing in pastures, which this is not really pertaining to us, but I thought it was interesting. Farmers do not like it because it is not good for the cows, as it's bitter, and they don't like the ironweed taking over their pasture. I just thought it was an interesting side note. Deadheading does reduce the seedlings, as they're little kind of puffy little cotton when they explode off. And the plant can be reduced if you do want to have it shorter. Great pollinators, bees, butterflies. So it's great for a pollinating garden. Here's one of my favorites. This is a purple cone flower, Echinacea. Beautiful flower. It is now going to seed. It doesn't last as long as your other fall flowers. It is a native perennial, hardy to zones 3 through 8. It resists dry weather. It has a daisy-like flower with a beautiful little cone shape on top. And it will grow anywhere from 2 to 4 feet. It will start blooming in July all the way into September. And I'd like to make a note that on this time, it's losing many of its flower, but try not to deadhead it, because you'll be rewarded by having the goldfinches coming and eat the seeds. And it's just kind of a delight to see the plants moving in the breeze. And when you look closely, there are the goldfinches eating the seeds. So you're providing kind of a natural food source. And I wanted to point out, you want to plant in full sun. And then you want to transplant and divide this in the springtime. And deadheading is not necessary unless you really you want a very tidy landscape. Then I would suggest maybe saving a few of those flower heads for the birds and the bees. Goldenrod. Oh, when you see this is like a pop of sunshine. Goldenrod solidago. It is a perennial, and it is hardy from zones 3 to 8. And we have a height 4 to 6 feet, but there are new varieties that are coming out that are much shorter. I planted this spring, one that was called Little Lemon, and it doesn't get any more than 12 inches high. And so far it's under a foot, and it's still blooming, and it's just a little nice little short one if you don't want to have a tall one. It does prefer full sun to partial shade, stand with dry seasons. It blooms in midsummer to fall. It is clump forming, and the division is in spring. And if you're going to do in the fall time, do wait after it's finished flowering. And it's a great late season pollen. The pollen is heavy and sticky, so it is not airborne. And you don't want to confuse that with the ragweed. In the ragweed, the pollen is very light, and that is airborne, and that is what causes everyone to have allergies or allergic coughing. So it is perfectly fine in the garden, no problems. Joe Pyeweed. When you look at Joe Pyeweed, it really makes a statement when you have several planted together. These beautiful plumes of this lilac pink flowers. It is not a weed, it is a native perennial. And to our zones, very hardy, zones 4 to 8. And the flowers have like a vanilla scented fragrance to them. And that'll bloom in late summer to early fall. It's great, it's resistant to deer browsing and rabbits. Full sun to shade. It is a tall plant, 4 to 7 feet. And these large plants does need space to grow. And again, it is not a weed, it is a perennial. And you'll also find this along with ironweed along the side of the road, growing wild in the pastures or in the fields. It does spread by rhizomes, it's low maintenance, and it does great pollinator for end of the season food source for bees and beneficials. Here's a beautiful one. This is Helenium. Has beautiful bright orange and yellow flowers, and it has like a brown or black center to it. It's a native perennial, very hardy to zones 3 through 8. And the petals are about 2 to 3 inches around in diameter in multicolors. Full sun does best. It is a tall one, between 2 to 4 feet. Does prefer moist soils, flowering July to October. So it's giving you a 2-season type of benefit of flowering. And this flower can be used in a rain garden. The plants usually the first year are spindly. So plants circle together and maybe plant sturdy plants in front of it to kind of support it. Otherwise, be prepared to give it some staking. It also can be pinched back late spring to reduce the height. And then again, this is another pollinators for your bees, butterflies, and insects. The next one is Russian sage. And Mary is going to tell us a little bit more about the Russian sage.
The Russian sage, excuse me, is a common perennial and it grows in zones 5 to 9. It has spikes of lavender blue and is native to Central Asia, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. It is salt tolerant and has no major disease or pest problems. It's a nice winter landscape visual because it gives a kind of a ghostly, airy appearance. Oops, sorry. The height is 3 to 4 feet tall by 3 to 4 feet wide. It's full sun and it's drought hardy. You can cut it back in early spring to control it 12 inches to 15 inches. And the bees love Russian sage. Chrysanthemums. We are seeing beautiful, colorful chrysanthemums everywhere right now. They're listed as a perennial in zones 4 to 9, but they're best planted in the spring. Mums sold in garden centers in autumn should be considered as annuals, as they are not hardy enough for planting in cold regions. Mums were first cultivated in 15th century China, where illustrations show a more daisy-like appearance. It has since been bred into many sizes, shapes, and colors, such as orange, red, yellow, and purple. They are related to dahlias, sunflowers, marigolds, zinnias, and cosmos. Their height is 1 to 3 feet tall, and they're heavy feeders. You can lift plants in the spring for dividing, but they may be needed to be pinched back in late spring or midsummer to have delayed blooming into the fall months. They have limited visitors. Oh, there's the slide. The turtlehead. The turtlehead, is a native perennial to eastern United States. It grows in zones 4 to 8. It is pink or white turtle-shaped flowers, which lends to the name turtlehead. It has thick green leaves and attractive seed heads. It spreads only a few feet from where they are planted. If grown outside of the eastern United States, it can potentially become invasive. One very, very good thing about the turtlehead, it is deer resistance. Cultivars to look for are black ace with white flowers or Albertine tortuga. They bloom August to September in full shade to full sun to partial shade, and they bloom in early spring. Do not cut them back in the winter. They are a moisture-loving plant, and they grow in clumps, and they attract butterflies. Many of these flowers are in blossom now in the beautiful Peace Garden on the Lake County Fairgrounds. This garden is maintained by our master gardeners and is open to visitors. There are plants, shrubs, and other things of interest in the garden year-round. And our last flower is the magnificent dahlia. These dahlias, they're wonderful. The dahlia is commonly known as the national flower of Mexico. It originated in the mountains of 1552 by the Aztec Indians. Tubers and seeds reached European botanists, and the plant was named dahlia in honor of the Swedish botanist Andrew Dahl. The American Dahlia Society lists 12 different, I think I'm on the wrong slide. Yep. The American Dahlia Society lists 12 distinct categories and are categorized by size, ranging from 1 inch to 12 inch in diameter. There are 42 species. Today, there are more than 50,000 dahlia hybrids of various types. Some of the types of dahlias are cactus, decorative, pom-poms, ball, anemone, water lily, and dinner plate. They are available in 16 colors except for the true blue and black. Dahlias are related to the sunflower, chrysanthemum, daisy, and zinnia. Dahlias are often associated with various meanings that range from messages of enduring grace to signals of warning. They symbolize elegance, inner strength, creativity, change, and dignity. Dahlias have been used in treating epilepsy by the Aztecs. They have also been used to treat diabetes and used in clinical tests relating to the functioning of kidneys. Many gardeners refer to the dahlia as the queen of the autumn garden, as it blooms for prolonged periods of time when compared to most other garden plants. Dahlias are also believed to be the most popular competition flower. They are tender blooms. They are tender tubers with eyes, tuber, and crown. To plant them, have good soil with good drainage. They are sun lovers, requiring 6 hours or more of sun. Plant the tubers after the frost in the spring. Dig your holes at the proper depth and spacing. Know how tall the plant should get and place a stake when you plant them so they can be staked up easily later on. Label your plants when you plant them. After a killing frost, cut down the plants. Dig up and wash off the dahlia tubers. Trim off the rotten and dead parts. Dry the clumps on a tarp and store the tubers in a plastic bag or box, lightly sprinkled with moistened peat moss or vermiculite. Be sure to label. This procedure can be used for other plants also. Disbudding the removal of flower buds is a pruning technique. Removing the terminal bud will cause the side buds to produce smaller but more numerous flowers. By removing the lateral buds on the plant, the terminal bud will produce a larger flower on a longer stem. This is another technique that can be used with other plants. We hope you found our presentation helpful for your garden design. Included in our handout, you will find additional plant selections for your landscape gardening. There are many tender fall perennials, bulbs, tubers, and long blooming flowering plants and shrubs to be considered. For example, the beauty berry bush with its purple berries and the false maple shrub with its red bell-shaped flower can be attractive additions to your landscape.
So in closing, for your enjoyment, we'd like to share a few famous and not so famous garden quotes. Gardening is learning, learning, learning. That's the fun of them. You're always learning. Helen Mirren. A garden is not a place, but a journey. Anonymous. A good garden may have some weeds. By Thomas Fuller.
The earth laughs in flowers. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And a Chinese proverb is, all gardeners know better than other gardeners. And gardening is not a rational act, by Margaret Atwood.
My garden is the most beautiful masterpiece. That's Claude Monet. A gardener's recipe, 1 part soil, 2 parts water, and 3 parts wishful thinking. Anonymous.
The love of gardening is a seed that once sown never dies, by Gertrude Jekyll. And lastly, to plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow, by Audrey Hepburn. Thank you.